everyone, and welcome back to Here Be Dragons. I am your host, the alligator variant of Steven. With me, as always, is John from the Prime timeline and Kate the Conqueror, who is also a Loki variant, apparently.
What did you expect?
I mean, wheels within wheels, man.
It's really makes a lot of sense that both you guys are sporting the Loki personas, and me, nope, just gonna stick with my Lord of the Rings hat.
Yeah.
Lame.
Yeah.
Lame, awesome, whatever.
But Nessie's not here this week. She's working. We love you, Nessie. Do that thing you do. And Sanri was supposed to be here, but she is actually feeling quite ill the last few days. So we'll have her back again real soon. But we've got Kate. Kate's been joining us for a lot of our MCU or like Marvel talks lately because you're a newer fan, but you've gone in with both feet.
Yeah.
And Steven likes to have the support.
Two against one. Bring it on.
And of course, John, famously not the biggest fan of the MCU, doesn't hate it, but just kind of ho-hum on it.
Yeah, you guys know I like to play it up a lot.
I know you like to, you like to have fun with it, but like genuinely, you are just kind of ho-hum about it.
Yeah.
You like to torture us with your indifference.
Yeah. But John, you liked the first 3 episodes of Loki so far.
I did.
How did you feel about these?
It's pretty much my favorite thing the MCU has ever done. And I'm not like, that could be taken the wrong way. That could be like, I'm damning it with faint praise because I'm not crazy about like the rest of the MCU, but that's not at all what I mean when I say that. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I'm probably going to go ahead and buy the soundtracks for this because I loved the music for this show and everything about it just worked. I love the style, the tone, the characters. It just really all worked for me. So I've really got nothing but positive things to say.
Right on. Kate, how did you feel about the back half of the season?
How do you think I felt?
Right.
I said in the last stream that I wasn't sure, like I wanted to wait until it wrapped up to decide whether I liked it better than WandaVision. I think I did. I think we crossed the threshold. I think they nailed the landing. It could have gone poorly. And I know it wasn't maybe perfect. I know there were some criticisms, but I think they took the high concept they were going for and they nailed it for the most part. So very, very pleased.
Okay, well, this is going to be weird because I'm going to be the one that said the ending left me a little cold. Really liked 4, really liked 5, really liked episode 6. But like just where they left it, I was like, I didn't like it. But I also have come to understand why they did. Some of it is they had to. COVID got in the way of their filming schedule and whatnot. And so I'm like, I'm willing to forgive all of that. It didn't feel like a good place to end a season to me. But they're also working with what they've got. There is a season 2. It ain't done. There's still hope of getting Mobius on a jet ski. So like, I'll just say I loved it so much that I was like, please don't leave it there.
See, and this is why I've for completely different reasons, I've actually been staying off of Twitter for about the past 2 weeks, more or less. Mm-hmm. So all this stuff that you guys are talking about the reaction and that COVID may have gotten in the way of some stuff. I have no conception of like any of that stuff. So I'm just sort of reacting to what I watched. Yeah. And I was enormously happy with.
I think most people are over the moon about this. I think I'm in the minority.
Okay.
In saying that there were, that it just left me a little bit not what I wanted. But like, here's the thing. It gave me everything else I wanted. So, I'm going to quibble about the end, and now I'm done quibbling. I have other small gripes that I'll touch on as we go through. But
Yeah,
they're tiny.
I think what I loved about the ending was that it completely like sort of, it threw me in all the great ways, and it set up such great, like I can only imagine where the story is going to go in season 2, and it has me super hyped for where it's going to go next. And I really dug the character development and all that stuff. And I like the fact that, we had our big, like, action stuff in episode 5, and episode 6 was just literally 3 people sitting down in a room and talking. I just loved that about it. It's like, it's basically like, I didn't even think about this the first time I watched it, but when I was going back, I was like, it's almost like a really good version of the end of Matrix Reloaded.
Okay.
Like the architect, but except it really works instead of being like,
a lot of people are making that connection.
Again, like, I'm gonna use the name He That Remains, because that's the only name that was given to that specific character. But I loved his delivery of that.
He was so great. And especially the fact that now it looks like we're going to get like really evil versions of that character. I can't wait to see that actor put a completely different spin on that. So it's like my... Oh, yeah.
You're right, Mom.
Which, another thing I want to say, and I'm like jumping all over the place now, like when I rewatched it this morning, I caught like that moment when Mobius is like, I don't remember an alligator Loki. I don't even know for sure he is a Loki. I feel like we're being set up for an alligator Loki origin story episode.
Please.
I need it.
I really do.
Like that character, it's ridiculous. Let's be honest. It's fully ridiculous. But like, I really feel like they have earned their ridiculousness. The MCU has established a world where occasionally bonkers crap happens. And Alligator Loki, we all just went shrugged and went, not only do we accept it, but we love him.
I stan Alligator Loki, so... But no, I agree with you. I think you're right. They've earned the weirdness. And that was what hooked me about WandaVision. Right off the bat, from the concept, when I first saw the trailers, I was like, I need to watch that. And that's why I was so hesitant about, being like, comparing the two things. But they really did go wacky with this. And it worked so well.
And I will say, like, that was my one criticism about WandaVision, although it didn't really hit me until I had sort of sat with the last episode for a little bit, was that last episode felt kind of like a return to, sort of MCU norms of, a typical climax to their movies. Loki just, like, maybe it's because it's not an ending to the series, but just a season ender, but it like stayed just completely insane and crazy through to the end. And so I'm just delighted.
Like Steven said, it really was just 3 people sitting in a room, and an exposition dump like that could have been convoluted, boring, uneventful. And it was only just that one little scuffle between Sylvie and Loki in it. Otherwise, there's no fighting. So to take the risk and do such a stayed, well, it stayed in a way, stayed without the big fight finale kind of thing. To do that in a show like this and pull it off, there were a lot of people I expected to not like this, and I'm hearing mostly positive things because I really think that they did it justice. It was so hard to add in a completely new character, to introduce a new Phase 4 villain in the finale of a 6-episode season. And they did it, and they did it well.
Yeah, like, I really actually love when shows do that. Like one of my favorite things was, and he wasn't really introduced in the finale, but on Lost, the season 2 finale, like turned everything on its head and had, you saw the return of the character of Desmond, who was like, he was in like a little bit of like the first episode or 2 of the season, but just like this character that you didn't know anything about. And he was basically someone that the audience just doesn't know. And the finale of season 2 just completely devotes the entire arc of the 2-hour episode to him. And he gets all the flashbacks and it like reorients the story around that character. And so I really actually love when shows do that, where, they've set you up with all, and then they introduce this new element into the last act of either a show or a season, and it completely reorients it, because now like he's, whatever his name is, he's feels like he is this pivotal part of this world that's being constructed in this show. And I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. And he was so, the actor performed it so well. I was just, he had my full attention throughout the entire episode. And I just, it's so funny because I'm going to be really enthusiastic for this stream, which is, I know, unusual for me with the MCU, but God, I loved it.
I'm not mad about that. I'm here for this.
Tell me how you really feel, though.
Yeah, I heard someone say a few episodes back, I've been very deep in the Loki YouTube side of things. And someone's like, I really hope they don't introduce Kang or a variant of him in this episode, because, why would you do that in your finale? You should wrap up what you started instead of introducing something new. And somehow they managed to do both. They managed to do it in such a way that we're losing this version, but he completely sets up other versions of himself to make their appearances and be their own versions. I expected him to just show up in a post-credit scene, honestly, just to sort of tease it for Multiverse of Madness or Quantumania. But the fact that they gave us so much time with him and he dominated the episode and it didn't feel weird or wrong, that's something special. I think they did a really good job with it.
Yeah, I'm seeing, Matthew, I guess, is having, wishing that there had been more for Loki and Sylvie. But see, I felt like the final episode served their story perfectly. And like, that's part of what was so gripping to me about it, is the conflict that they come into, and, and seeing Loki's growth throughout the course of this season. And I just thought it was so amazing, and I was so immersed in it. And like, I don't know, the idea that, what you were saying, Kate, that maybe some people are saying don't introduce a new element into the finale. Like, that's what not series finales, but season finales do. It's like, you're also concluding arcs throughout the season, but you're also teeing up what's to come. That's kind of what a season finale does. So I don't know. It's
right. Like, it's one of those your mileage may vary type of things. Like, we all want different things from the stories we engage with, which is why some people like things and some people don't, and what have you. And I don't feel bad that I got to where I was at, and at the end of it, I went, no, that's not right.
Like, if it was the end of the show, I would have gripes.
I mean, I agree with that, but like, we're going to sit with this finale for a long time. For a long time, this is going to be the story that we have. And I am not satisfied with thinking about specifically Sylvie in a certain way for the next year and a half while we wait for season 2 of this show to come out. I specifically did not like that they made Sylvie kind of the bad guy at the end. She's she is so blinded by her pain and her that she goes through with killing him, even though it becomes very obvious that doing so is a bad thing to do.
Yeah, but but she's like, you can very easily see how she's driven to do that. Her entire life she's been hunted by these people. From her perspective, I get why she would do that. I don't think it turns her into a villain. I don't
think it turns her into a villain, but like it's a fall from grace. In my eyes, it is a fall from grace for her character right at the end. And I don't want that. I love Sylvie. I want her to be a good guy. I want her to trust people. Now, obviously, trust is probably the one thing she's going to have the hardest time doing. And I mean, Loki even says it to her, you can't trust anyone and I'm untrustworthy. So she finds herself in a bad place, but I don't know. I wanted something better for her at the end. And maybe that's just me like projecting or however you want to put it.
And I really did feel like after she does what she does, she recognizes that it, and maybe this is me projecting too. We really won't know until season 2 comes along. But like the read on that I got was she realized that she probably didn't make the right choice, either that or at least that she recognized the futility in what she had done. That it's, she thought it would make her feel better, and I don't think it did. And she may recognize that, she made an incorrect decision based on all the pain that she's been through.
Yeah. And, I mean, again, it's just, I loved the Sylvie character so much. Like,
well, so do I. And
to me, she was the best part of the show, in my opinion. Like, even better than either one of these guys, who were both great also. Richard E. Grant was great. Jonathan Majors was great. Like, everybody crushed it. But I loved the character of Sylvie. She was so interesting to me. So maybe it's just me going, no, don't be nice to my girl, Maybe that's where I'm at.
I mean, heartache is like is what it's all about, Stephen.
Name of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were destined to end in heartache. But no, I see what you're saying. I do love Sylvie too, but I think it is fitting for her character to have that fall, because look at the Loki that we knew up until the series began. It was just rise and fall for him. And I think Sylvie's going to go through much the same kind of arc now, where she's going to be that heroic anti-hero sort of thing.
I hear all of the things you're saying, and some of it I'm recognizing is like my emotional attachment to the story taking root, but I have other things that I can nitpick too, and I'll get to those later. But
before we do any of that, can I just say, like, on my second viewing, I'm going to say that a lot because like I really picked up on some like character stuff and things. It really affected me watching Richard E. Grant's performance as Loki, because it can easily be disguised by the fact that we're seeing a completely different actor playing the role, but like this is a Loki where everything that's in the main MCU happened to him, except he didn't get killed by Thanos. And to see that version of Loki, having gone through that, and then hear him talk about how he wanted to go back because he missed his brother, he missed his home, and then to see the way that he ultimately sacrifices himself, and it just really sort of tugged at my heartstrings, and that's a version of the Loki that we followed all the way through the beginning of Infinity War, except he didn't die, and I just found that really sort of both sad and like hell yeah. No, it just was really fulfilling.
It's funny to see one of those sort of fan theories about him duplicating himself and escaping the situation kind of come to fruition in this funny way, and seeing what would happen if that did happen. So yeah, I really like that. And it does kind of pay some credence to his character development through all those movies that we've already seen, as opposed to this one who's sort of regressed a little bit. So it's fun to see what he would have become if he had survived the attack on the refugee ship. So I agree with you.
A sad old man.
Yeah. Who's really attached to his brother.
But who still had it in him to have his moment of glorious purpose. To, you know, if I may quote Mobius, you know, you can be anything you want, even a good person.
In case someone told you otherwise.
Right.
Oh God, that's like everybody was going crazy about Paul Bettany's, you know, famous line in WandaVision, but this is the line that's going to stick with me, because and just seeing the way that Tom Hiddleston played, like taking that in, that was a good one.
Yeah, like if your TV show can deliver a line of that caliber per season, you're doing okay. Like, because it is one of those that really just sort of resonates, like as you say, the Vision line, you brought it up, it resonates. This line, you can be whatever you want, even a good person. Like, I don't know who all needs to hear that out there, but some of y'all do, and it's true.
And a lot of the times, like, what was so great about that line is I feel like that's something that might not have resonated with Loki if certain other people had said it to him at an earlier point. Sometimes it takes the right person who's kind of gotten through to you for that person to come along and to be able to say the thing that you really do need to hear. And I feel like, you know, Mobius was that person for Loki in that moment, and it's great seeing that he was receptive to hearing something like that.
Mm-hmm. So Leaf's got an interesting comment. As someone ignorant enough to have never heard of Kang before, who learned he had long been around and blue from YouTubers, were the past versions born on Earth? Is he human? If Earthling, how blue?
Can I just say
you're our resident expert. You want to take this one?
Well, I do just want to say one thing, which was just before we launch into people talking about, like, I have no idea about any of this. I've seen the name pop up on Twitter and stuff, but like, so I wasn't sure if that meant this is who that was or whatever. So until you mentioned it, Kate, I was like, oh, who is that supposed to be? But
so it's out there. This actor, the Jonathan Majors, it is public knowledge that he is cast to play a character called Kang the Conqueror in Quantumania, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Mm-hmm. He is a well-known comic book character. He's very like Ravonna Renslayer is his sort of like his romantic interest in the comic books. He is born in his real name is Nathaniel Richards.
Richards, yeah.
He's Reed Richards' descendant, but he's from like the 31st century, so 1,000 years in the future from now.
See, I'm so glad I didn't know any of this.
Yeah.
But like he figured out how to, you know, travel. Well, he kind of tells the story even, but the original is a guy called Nathaniel Richards from Earth. He is a human. Why is he blue in the comic books? Because he wanted to be blue.
Yeah, I don't know why he is in the comic books. I just know that he is.
I'm really glad they cast a person of color in this role and did not cover his skin up.
But the cool thing that they did was when we first see him, when the door opens in the Citadel, the lighting is very blue.
Is very blue.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, they're paying homage to it without going all the way.
Right.
And I loved it. And the moment I saw him, so I'm at my sister's. I've been helping her move for the last week. And for like 3 days, we didn't have internet. So I had to watch the finale on my phone at like midnight on Wednesday. But I'm sitting there in bed, like holding up my phone, and I see Jonathan Majors, and I fist pump. Yes, I called it. Well, I didn't call it. Other people called it, but I agreed with the people who called it.
Right. You're like, I think that's correct, and we are right.
Yes.
See, since I didn't know any of this, like I had no idea what they were actually walking into. So honestly, what I thought was, like I wasn't expecting this comic book character because I didn't know who that was. So like they were walking in here, I'm like, oh God, it's going to be another Loki.
But the thing is, the reason so many people who were in the know from the comic books knew it was this King the Conqueror character because of things like the Ravonna Renslayer, his connections with the TVA, his connections with supposedly, like he's got a city at the end of time.
His connections to Eliath.
Right. Like even in the ruined shot of, you know, at the end of time where Eliath is eating everything, you see an Avengers Tower, but it's got his corporation's name on the side instead.
I was such an idiot. I was watching this episode the first time through, and they kept saying Eliath. I thought Eliath was the name of the smoke creature, and it was Eliath.
No. Well, that's an easy mistake to make. At least you didn't think it was like Goliath.
It took me my second viewing to realize, oh no, that's just his name.
The name is Elias.
Yeah. And also in the Void is a pyramid with a Sphinx, and Nathaniel Richards' time machine where he went back to ancient Egypt to become Rama Tut.
Yeah, a pharaoh.
Yeah, to become a pharaoh was a Sphinx. So, yeah. There were so many Easter eggs that people pointed out. I was like, it has to be Kang.
Right. They really did lay the groundwork for this. If you knew what to look for. He's been teased since Ant-Man and the Wasp, because there is a shot where you can see basically a city in the quantum realm, and King the Conqueror is meant to be in Quantum Mania, Ant-Man, the next Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. So like his city has been teased because that's where it's supposed to be, in the quantum realm at the end of time. And there is a shot where you can see it look like a domed city in the background. Anyway, enough about that.
Even the director told us to pay attention. I think it was John Watts who was like, pay attention to this thing in the quantum realm. It's Chronopolis, just so you know.
What I do have to say, like I commented on this during the first stream we did, but like I love how meta this all feels. Like the MCU as it's been constructed, and that I take a little bit of an issue with, is this pure, true one timeline where everything locks in, and just the fact that the season ends with everything splintering off into chaos and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, this is the kind of stuff I'm here for.
And the thing is, it's like they've set up a villain for the next Ant-Man and Wasp movie, which doesn't come out for a year and a half. And they've also they've created the multiverse, which is going to, like, if the rumors about Spider-Man are true, there's literally Doctor Strange in the multiverse of madness. So like this sort of multiversal war, I think, is kind of what Phase 4 is going to be all about. Agreed. Until we get the next Avengers movie, or whatever they're going to call it.
X-Men, guys. I'm
here for it. Give it to me, but like there's nothing official yet, but I want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much metafiction going on in this. I was rewatching the first couple episodes over the last few days once we got internet back. I only made it to the end of episode 4, though, so if I forget bits and pieces of episodes 5 and 6, that's why. But just going back and noticing all the references to story, like, this isn't your story, it never was, and this is the part you play. And Kang really hits home in episode, He Who Remains really hits that home in episode 6, where he says, I hope you're not disappointed. You can't get to the end without being changed by the journey. Those kinds of things. It's very self-aware in that way. And it does sort of dig into the idea of story and how it's constructed. And I think the multiverse is going to shake things up. So it's the perfect time to look at what we understand about story and think about how comics totally flip it on its head. I always sort of thought, oh, comics are really dumb because, you know, they're changing things from one minute to the next. They're always retconning themselves to do new things because they have to come up with new stuff. And how do you know what's real and what's the story? What's the canon? But
and then you got me in the corner going, who cares, Kate?
Yeah, we've had this conversation. Yeah. I'm like, I want my characters to be like one thing, right? But I think the way they're handling it it's a lot more nuanced and complex than I anticipated. And so I'm appreciating what they're doing with it. So I get it now. This is why I've been so hyper fixated on the superhero stuff lately. And I'm like, can I please talk about this with people? Because it's fascinating me. It's changing all of my conceptions about fiction.
We're very lucky to have you here with us to talk about it because I do love your perspective.
When it makes any sense. Yeah, sure.
When it makes any sense.
Yeah, I'm really tired. So if I seem loopy, it's because I've been moving for a week and it's not even my own stuff. So very tired, but thanks for having me anyway.
You're doing great, kiddo. You're doing great. I didn't mean that to come off condescending. You're doing great, pal. Anyway, so, okay. I am going to critique something. It's nitpicky, at least from my point of view, but for some people it may not be, okay? For Loki to have been declared to be gender fluid and bisexual, by the end, he's basically still a man and just a man and in a heteronormative romantic involvement. And I'm just like, you had it right there to do anything else. And you didn't. You just slapped a couple labels on them and moved on like they didn't matter. And I want to hold their feet to the fire and tell them, do better. You've got season 2 coming. Do better. Kiss Mobius. I'll be very happy. Spend some time as a woman and act like that's who you really are. I'll be happy. But they didn't do any of that, you know. So I quibble all you want. I think, again, it's a minor thing, but I still think that representation matters. Don't just label a character and not show it to me. You know, show, don't tell.
I tend to agree. I think I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt because, like you said, there is season 2. So season 1 was so heavy on exposition and world building and character establishment. I think season 2 is going to be lit because all of the foundations are laid, all of the pieces of the puzzle are in place, and they can really run with it. So I'm really hoping, you know, we just got the sort of tension between Sylvie and Loki so far, and then we got that one kiss and then the betrayal. So I'm hoping what they do is dig a little further into Loki's love life in season 2 and, you know, him, now that he's sort of come to terms with himself and is starting to learn to understand and respect and love himself, maybe he can start to explore other avenues of his own, like, intimate relationships, maybe outside of Sylvie as well, especially now that she has betrayed him. So I get it. I understand it. I totally kind of was expecting them to maybe, well, honestly, I wasn't expecting them to go harder with it, but I wanted them to go harder with it. So I'm kind of with you, but I'm hoping that season 2 will give them a little more meat.
Right, like they got cut short because of COVID, so maybe that's part of the story that they will explore a little more down the road. And the one and only Tinkerbell says, Sylvie is Loki as a woman. Yes, but like, Sylvie is Loki as a woman. The Loki we know is Loki as a man. That's not gender fluidity for either character. That is identifying as a woman or identifying as a man. But it says on his paperwork, gender is fluid. And neither one of them show any inclination to identify as any gender other than the one they're presented as in the show.
I mean, technically, he's sex fluid on his paperwork, which is different.
Okay. That is correct. That is correct.
And I don't know. I'm going to probably take a bit of a different path on this, because I think, given the fact that the story they were setting up was to have, another variant Loki and and a woman Loki at that's sort of, they were going to tackle the dynamics of the relationship between those two characters. I kind of feel like I almost wish they hadn't done the whole thing with his identification, because that feels kind of like they were trying to get points by doing that with story that they weren't intending to really tackle.
Right.
And so and the fact that, like, I mean, I saw that like as a post on like entertainmentweekly.com or something like that. It's not even something that I would have been aware of if I was just going off of what the show shows us. So, yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like it's that same thing where, what they do with, two men dancing together at the end of Beauty and the Beast, and two women kissing at the end of Rise of Skywalker. It's like they seem interested in doing these sort of very small, like, nudges. See how we're being progressive, but it's not where they're interested in taking their stories. So I don't know that I was disappointed, because I didn't really expect it.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well,
so
I
yeah,
didn't expect it either. But that's one of my critiques, is that I didn't expect them to do it, but I wanted them to do it.
If you're going to set it up, you should follow it through.
That's all I'm saying. But again, even just saying this character is bisexual, it's better than nothing, I guess. But it falls short of the mark that I want them to hit. But yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, the frustration of the romance plot this season, I think, maybe paves the way for something else next season. They introduced it. We had him sort of like falling in love with himself as the, seismic narcissist that he is.
And I got to be honest, I liked that story, because it does speak to, how much of a narcissist Loki actually is. Of course he would fall in love with a version of himself.
Yeah, it was thematically resonant to have them interested in each other, and it served the story. And so I think that's why they went that way. But it really does open it for him in the future. So I'm hoping that they do eventually follow it through. Maybe like the negative backlash of like the people who criticize the woke left will die down a little bit, and people will just start accepting it, and they'll be like, okay, now we can do this.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Okay, I'm done quibbling, though. That's the end of my quibbles, because literally everything else about this I absolutely loved. From boastful Loki to Kid Loki to Alligator Loki to President Loki to classic Loki. And
the more I thought about President Loki, the more hilarious I found it. It's like, so is this a version of Loki that went to Earth and really went through all the the motions of running for president? And
it's a whole comic storyline. It actually happened.
Oh, did it? Okay. I didn't know that, so I just found it absurd.
I think it's from 2015. Like, it's a fairly recent line of comics. I obviously haven't read it, but I've heard people talk about it on the internet, and it's a thing.
I need to make a correction from earlier. I said the one and only Tinkerbell. This is clearly the one and only Tinkerbell, the superior version. If there were two, this is the one and only Tinkerbell. And you also raised another good point. The MCU has been setting things up and playing them out for years, so I'm willing to give them the time to do that.
But the part where President Loki, I forget if he gets his hand cut off or if
it's alligator bitten off.
Alligator Loki bites
his hand off.
His reaction, just like, it's so great.
Can we appreciate for a moment that Kid Loki and Alligator Loki did get help?
They did.
I did not catch that. I so did not catch that.
I could just imagine like the subtitles of Alligator Loki being like, "We're not doing Get Help."
I also love that classic Loki was the only one that could understand Alligator Loki.
Oh man, I need a spin off of the two of them together and their shenanigans.
I'll tell you what, Richard E. Grant wants to do it. I watched a couple of interviews with him, and he loved that character so much. The classic Loki character. He's just like, it was, apparently he just had a blast playing that character. And given that he's only in one episode, he didn't get a whole lot of time with it. So he's like, yeah, give me a spinoff with me and the alligator. I'll do it.
And we'll all eat it up.
And we'll watch it. We will.
Except he requires a muscle suit. If you
he wants a muscle suit. But that diaper, the really big ridiculous horns, like what a great that costume was. Mwah.
Can I just say, and we can actually work backwards and talk a bit about episode 4, since I'm reaching back to that, because holy crap, that episode threw me for a loop when I initially saw it. But just the way that episode ends with the post-credit sequence with Loki waking up, and then you see what at the time I thought were just 3 Lokis. It's actually 4, because Alligator Loki is there too. And again, the way that main theme comes sort of crashing in the minute you see them and it cuts to the rest of the credits, I was like, oh my God, this show is so utterly amazing. Especially because with the end of that episode, like, to be clear, like, before that sequence pops up, as far as like, Loki's been pruned and he's dead, like, and especially with earlier them having pruned Mobius, I thought for sure that he was dead. Like, and I do think there could have potentially been a version of this show that perhaps wasn't run by Disney, that would have, actually that would have been the end of those characters, and the show could have moved forward following Sylvie, and then perhaps other variants of Loki, just with Tom Hiddleston playing.
That would have been interesting. Versions. We knew they were going to kill Loki. The thing is, when they pruned Mobius, I was like, no. Yeah. Then when they pruned Loki, I went, oh, thank God, Mobius is fine.
Now, I didn't feel that until the mid-credit sequence, because I actually thought that they were like, if I had had time to actually think about it before that sequence popped up, I probably would have realized, okay, they're probably not going to do that. But in the moment, I was like, holy shit, they're just going all out with this show. And because honestly, if you looked at that moment where he's like attempting to bare his soul, you could look at that as Loki having sort of character-wise, having, fully sort of matured and realizing, that he doesn't have to be so, close-started and devious all the time. So you could argue that is a sort of a fulfillment of a character arc, and gotta go now.
Yeah, which is a great, like, even though they brought him back in the moment, we didn't know that, so we still got that emotional reaction in the moment. And it's comic books. People come back from the dead all the time, so like it is what it is. They don't kill off characters permanently very often.
Yeah, but the thing was, they killed off the main version of Loki that we followed. So in the moment, I thought it was perfectly conceivable that this version of Loki had served his purpose to the story, and that was it. So I was rather happy that wasn't the case, because I love the character arc that our variant for this show has been going on, and I was very relieved that meant that Mobius was fine, because that's one when he got pruned, I was like, no, holy shit,
right.
No.
You at least have to put him on a jet ski and make him go wow at least once before it's over.
Well, because I didn't see it coming. Like I thought, okay, they're gonna take him away or something, and then she's just like prune him, and he talks about the jet ski, and and then he's gone. I was like, no, you did not do that. No,
Don't buy it. Nope, didn't happen.
Okay, Anna Iglesias says she frankly wants to see more of Renslayer. She thinks she was a potential to be a great character, great villain, maybe. Yes, and the thing is, like at the end of the series, she walks through a time portal, and that's the last we see of her. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that, like, I'm just like, what? You're just gonna she's just gonna walk away, and I'm not gonna know what happened for a year and a half.
Yeah, she's totally going after Kang.
Steven, were you not part of the Game of Thrones fan base where we were left hanging for 2 years between seasons? At least for those last couple of years.
I wasn't, because I became a fan of Game of Thrones.
Okay, but I'm just saying, this is like par for the course for us by this point, Steven.
No, I'm excited for that because, she is so tightly bound to Kang in the comics. I think she's going to be at least a very cool right-hand woman to Kang, like doing his bidding and keeping on with this mission. And because that's the thing, she hears from Sylvie and she seems genuinely perplexed by what Sylvie has to say. Like, you're a variant and this is all a lie. And she still sticks to her guns a little bit. She's because not entirely sure what she's doing, but she's loyal to it.
She's going through the spent cost fallacy. Mm-hmm. All of this has to mean something.
Yeah, so she's going to continue on, I think, with that path where she's like, this is for something. This is a valuable cause, and I'm going to keep fighting for it. And I'm going to go track down, whoever's running this place, and we're going to fix this. So I think she has the ability to be a very cool antagonistic force moving forward. And
I'm not going to try and pronounce the actress's name because I just know that I'm going to get it wrong. But she's obviously a very well accomplished actress, and I've seen her in lots of stuff. I think that she's absolutely phenomenal as Renslayer, and yeah, I can tell her character is going to be really great. Moving forward. I mean, that's the thing. Like this, like the MCU has been good in general at casting, but I was really blown away by all the actors on this show.
I'm going to make an attempt at her name here. I'm going to, hold on, paste. Oh, that is not what I wanted. Copy. Paste. And then I'm going to throw it up on screen. That is the actress's name who plays.
You cheat. You just put it up.
I did. Well, I'm going to try to say it. I think it's Gugu Mbatha Raw.
I think that's close, if not right.
But, I do my best to give them a review.
And if it's wrong, you can forward your
right. Send your hate mail to John handles all my hate mail, so send it to John. He can forward it to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's like, as you say, whoever is doing the casting for this, just they deserve a raise. I don't know what they're getting paid, but they deserve a raise.
And I want to say again, I feel like Owen Wilson really brought something to his part that sense of humor he has, even though it's sort of toned down from what he usually does, but it's just this kind of offbeat, irony to his humor that just it really sort of. I don't know. It suits my taste for, it just feels a little different. And I really love the relationship between him and Loki. It's just, yeah, so much of the show has just surprised me and how much I vibe with it. So
Yeah, he's intelligent and quippy in this as opposed to just, being the silly slapstick humor, which is refreshing. And the dynamic between the two is just so interesting. They're like intellectual equals. So they can spar verbally, and it's really entertaining.
That might be the real difference for me, is that, I mean, I like Owen Wilson, don't get me wrong. He's very funny and charming, but he's not playing an idiot. He's playing a very smart, very sharp, very capable character who just has a bit of a smarmy personality.
Yeah.
If you could possibly sheathe your smarm for a moment. It's one of my favorite lines. Love that one.
Right. What else are we talking? Okay, Renslayer. So, theory, she's gonna go find a Kang. Two theories. First, she's gonna go find a Kang alternate, and she is going to sort of like fulfill her comic book role of being a confidant, possibly a romantic interest for Kang the Conqueror, a variant of, He Who Remains. Second, she might be the only person whose memory is not changed by the rise of the new Kang regime at the TVA, because she wasn't there when it happened. So she might come around and be a savior in season 2 as well. And I think that would be, either one would be cool. I think the second one would be better, but like, I'm not married to my theories. That's a good way to get your feelings hurt.
I hope it's a bit more interesting than she just becomes like a follower or a love interest of of a Kang variant. My read on her is that she'll, recognizing that she's been deceived, she'll try and create some kind of a situation that she can turn to her advantage and perhaps one up, Kang in some scenario. So that's what I'd like to see.
Right on. I mean, like, ¿por qué no los dos? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why can't she be a romantic interest who switches sides later? Like, the possibilities are there, because Miss Minutes did show her something, and she then took that information, walked through a time portal, and that was the last we saw of her. I am very interested to know what's next for her, though. And again, like, fantastic casting for that actress who plays her. It's great. It's great all around.
Yeah, I agree with what Cassie just said. It could be very fitting for her to sort of, team up with Kang and then have a change of heart or find a better version of him, I guess. Like, she could have that about face when she realizes the true extent of what this particular what do you even call that? I don't know, that variant is capable of. And she could momentarily side with the wrong one, eventually coming around to the right one. Because there are good versions of Kang.
Right.
And to reply to Betsy, isn't it just implied that, yes, there are a bunch of, because Loki, stumbles into one of the, the other versions of the TVA at the end of the season.
Well, with Kang, all things are possible, so I'm going with yes.
Good call, Matthew. You're like, she said she was going in search of free will, and she also said that there was only one person who had free will.
That's exactly why I agree.
I guess Sylvie said it. There's only one person who has free will. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I only watched it once, full disclosure. I've been doing, hashtag other stuff. And I watched it Wednesday morning early, like before going to work. Cassie says the establishment of multiverse also gives an in to any characters played by actors who wanted or were forced to step away for a while. That's true. This explains why Don Cheadle plays Rhodey after Terrence Howard. This explains why Edward Norton isn't the Hulk anymore. Like all of that is possible.
Does it though?
Yeah.
Thor meme. Does it though?
What, you don't think so?
No, because all that stuff we saw before was in the sacred timeline, Stephen.
It was supposed to happen, and it always will happen.
Which, by the way, that is real. Can I tell? I was thinking about this, and like, the whole thing is really trippy because once what happens at the end of the season happens, and all of the timelines start to branch off, and it just becomes one big mess. Like, it's not like you can point to you can point to one moment in time where there was a sacred timeline before that, and the TVA did their thing, and then there's a point of that. Because once, everything starts to branch off, that affects all of time. So it's like you're looking at a situation where in all of history, there has simultaneously been a sacred timeline and also not been a sacred timeline.
Yes.
And it's really like, because I was thinking about, like, it kind of sucks to look at the MCU that's transpired so far and to think that was just all preordained to happen, and that the characters really didn't have any sort of personal say in what their destinies were. But then you could look at it as, but what if all that actually happened after everything had already branched off, and actually they were having making their own decisions? And it's like, it's very, the whole timey-wimey thing is very tricky, and it's something that's going to have me thinking for quite a while.
Yeah, it screws with my brain. I'm not going to lie. But
Yeah, like, it's really hard to, like, the TVA exists outside of time. This happened at the end of time, yet somehow there's still a before and after thing going on here, So I'm with you. It's really difficult to wrap your head around, wait a minute, how could this even happen if time doesn't work here?
And at a certain point, I'm just like Bruce Willis in The Looper, where he's like, no, I don't want to talk about time travel, because then you're going to get out a chart and start drawing lines. It's like,
yeah, none of it makes any sense. That's the thing. It's like, if you sit and think about it too hard, nothing good comes of that. And so you just have to sort of like run with the explanation and be like, okay, well, at least they're not like directly contradicting themselves.
Here's the thing. I would be fine with that, except they went to great lengths, both in Endgame and in this show, to explain how it creates a branch timeline, and it doesn't change your future. When you go back in time and change something, you are now living in a parallel dimension. You are not living in your past anymore. So, yeah, I just don't know how to wrap my head around it, other than they're clearly getting it that there's something bigger than what was going on in Endgame going on. Like, time is a component of all of creation, which is what the Infinity Stones are governing. So I think we're just digging into something that's bigger than what we had before, because they made such a big deal about how it is the branching timeline. Heck, the whole TVA exists based on the rules of time travel that they established, and then they break that rule in the finale. They're doing that to set up something for later.
Well, it's like he's talking about a time war that happened long before, but is that not just happening now, actually?
Right.
And it's like
the whole cycle is repeating itself.
Yeah, I think I referenced this in our last Loki video, but I'm pretty sure that was Hax Dogman's theory about it being circular. And so he's seen it all before. He knows it's coming. And so when the TVA Miss Minute's infographic, if you will, comes up in the first episode, it's, in the past, there was a vast multiversal war, but it's his past, but our future.
Which would be because he's at the end of time.
Exactly.
Oh man!
Is it the end, or is it just like a
mind F?
Which, by the way, can I just say how happy I was that we got more Miss Minutes, and I just want more and more and more.
I just love how everyone's like riffing on that jump scare of her. People are like, "Oh God, Miss Minutes!" Like, oh, it's funny.
Yeah, the Miss Minutes jump scare.
Yeah,
good though.
Hey, y'all.
I love the accent she puts on for it as well. Ramble Ron, hi Ramble Ron. I don't recognize you, but welcome to the stream. You say that PBS Spacetime just did a video. I was actually looking for the link, just posted it in the chat about the mini worlds and PBS Spacetime. As a science nerd, it's a channel I already watch quite a bit. It's heady stuff sometimes, but you don't need to know the math necessarily. But yeah, if you're interested in that, I just posted the link in the chat. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I haven't watched that one yet.
When we are past the hour mark, you want to?
Oh, we are.
Mid-roll?
Man, I'm just having such a great time talking. But yeah, let's do the mid-roll real quick. So the mid-roll is the part where I say, please remember to like and subscribe, because I never remember to do that except once I've already been streaming for an hour. So hit the like button. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. That would be great. We're this close to 700. Come on. Join us next week to talk about something I don't know yet. Nessie is supposed to pick something. She hasn't told me yet. She's at work right now, but we'll have a topic, and if not, I'll figure something out. John, I don't think you're going to be here next week because you have a big stream next Saturday to prepare for.
I do. Yeah. So I am going to, on my channel, be joined by Nessie, AK, Lauren, aka Shakes of Thrones, and our good friend Laura Petrucelli, who joined us on the Aliens stream, and she's been on my channel for Master and Commander as well. And all of us are going to be talking about one of my favorite films of all time, the Milos Forman film Amadeus. So
I see what you're doing here, John. You're just
What's
like,
that?
Who are the four most beautiful people I can get to surround myself with so that I look better by extension? Good, solid tactics, my man. Kate, did he ask you?
Nope, wasn't invited for that.
Rude.
Yeah, but see, Stephen, I didn't invite you either, so
Right.
automatically.
Well, I did say attractive people, so.
In John's defense, I don't even think I've seen the movie, so it's fine.
Okay.
Which is the general rule of thumb, Kate.
Right, you do need to have seen it.
And I just assume that Kate hasn't seen most of the.
Safe assumption,
Yeah.
unless it's the MCU, because the Hulk is now officially on Netflix in Canada, so I can complete the MCU watch through. Life is complete.
The answer to your question, Matthew, I have not watched Black Widow. I might watch it soon. If I do, we'll probably talk about it, but no, I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet because I've been debating about whether to go to the theater to see it or to just go ahead and put the money down and watch it on Disney Plus.
I caved and did the Disney Plus thing.
Okay, because the thing is, like, all right, like I'm being very positive today about Loki, but you guys know how I am in general about the MCU. So, I don't know that I necessarily want my first movie in the theater after all this time to be an MCU movie.
Right.
So
watch Fast 9 instead.
What else
No. Next month it's gonna be The Green Knight.
Okay.
Which I'm gonna see, which I've been looking forward to for like over a year because it got delayed. So I think that's gonna be my first film that I gotta see.
But Amadeus next Saturday on John's channel
At 7 p.m.
Right, 7 p.m. Eastern. Come next Sunday here. I don't know, something. We'll find a topic. Nessie and I will be chatting about something. We'll probably have a guest. You know how we do. I wish I had something planned, but I don't. And it's because I've got other things going on, namely HereBeCon. If you had intended to go to HereBeCon, check your email. Registration forms were emailed yesterday. If you did not, if you were supposed to go and you didn't get an email, you need to let me know. And you can contact me at either of these email addresses, either we3dragons@gmail.com or better yet, herebecon@gmail.com, because that's the email we're using for our convention related stuff. We are, I hesitate to say registration period is closed, because that's not 100% accurate, but this is like basically your last chance to get in if you're not in already. This is it.
And you may have to sleep standing up.
You will be spending time on an air mattress.
Or just spoon in a really small bed.
Or just spooning someone, but like a consenting someone.
It's not happening, Steven.
I can't forget to shout out our patrons. John, you're about 5th on the list for spooning anyway. But yeah, got to make sure we shout out our patrons. Our Patreon High Council consists of our alpha patron, Ridiculous Ed Tollett, who is probably driving home from work right now. Drive safe, buddy. Also, Lord John Bronsteen the Wise, as well as Sixto Sounds, a.k.a. JP, the Axe Grinder. Saw him in the chat earlier today. And they are accompanied by the lords and ladies of the realm, including Lady Leaf Underhill, Ryan Stavka, the Russian Quartermaster, and Reflective Rambling. And I want to give a special shout out to this week to our newest patron, this person right here, our first Australian patron, the Cloaked One. Sir Cloaked One has joined the Record of Heroes as a landed knight. Thank you so much, Cloaked One. We really appreciate it. What else am I forgetting to mention? Kate, when are you making your YouTube channel to talk about books and stuff?
Oh, at the rate I'm going, never. Even just coming on these streams is like, it's enough.
You need to do a stream on an instructional video on how to make room for books when you are out of shelf space. Because I really need.
I'm proficient in. Yeah.
I need to watch that stream.
You get a deeper bookcase and you hide books. You stack them vertically. Make furniture out of them.
Right.
I am gonna have to expand the size of
you can
my
start
bedroom
using
first.
a small book as a bookmark for a big book.
Yeah, just build an extension on your house. It's the only option.
Right.
I don't have any better advice for you.
Bag of holding.
Bigger library. Yeah, bag of holding. There you go. Just, they're what, 3,500 gold pieces? No big deal, right?
2,500 for the little one.
The little one's not gonna be big enough for all the books.
Yeah, it only holds 250 pounds of books.
Only.
You'll run out of space pretty quick, I assume. Anyway, enough of that. Is there anything else we actually need to cover in the mid-roll? Shout out our patrons. We love you. Oh, I do remember. I have a gaming channel. It's called Here Be Games. We've been on Thursday nights. I've been streaming various stuff. Lately, we've been doing city skylines, building the city of Dragon Hills. Mostly, I ignore the chat and people talk while I talk about what I'm doing in the game. I find it to be a very relaxing game to play. I've watched other people play it. I find it to be a very relaxing game to watch. And occasionally, I name stuff after people. There is a Webster Road, just so you know. We named the public library after this one right here.
I insisted.
Yep.
Is there at least a movie theater on my road?
You can't build a cinema specifically. But you know what? There's an opera house. Maybe I'll name the opera house after you.
Okay, that'll work.
Because we did build an opera house in our city last episode. Yeah.
Why the hell can't you build a movie theater? What is that?
Well, I think a movie theater is probably one of the things that can pop up in a commercial district, but I don't think there is a movie theater you can place.
Fair.
I mean, like, one of my life goals is to build a movie theater inside my house. So, like, I think it's perfectly reasonable.
Right. Anyway, I digress. Come watch me play City Skylines. We have fun. It is not the Sydney Opera House. It is a very ugly building that they designed specifically for the game. I'm sorry. Architecture is an art form that I actually do care about, and I find that building to be quite ugly. Anyway, but
I'm not feeling as good about it now.
Right. Well, some people probably think it's fantastic. I'm just not one of them. But shall we talk about Loki?
Fine.
If we must.
I want to talk about, again, some of these minor Lokis, specifically Kid Loki. That is a character I actually do want to have come back. I want to see that character again because I don't know the young actor's name who played him. I can look up really quick, but I also found it to be like just he delivered that character the sort of contained heartbreak he had when he said, "I killed Thor." You know, what was the thing that caused you to end up here? I killed Thor. And I'm like, that's a kid. So this is Loki as a child who killed Thor, and maybe like not intentionally. There's remorse and regret in that delivery. I just want to see more of that. I want to see more of that kid. I mean, the show was doing something right when I wanted to have like 6 different spin-offs, you know? Well, so I
have to admit, I hadn't really thought about the possibility that it was accidental, because we just normally think of Loki as always trying to kill Thor. So, but yeah, that would be interesting. I think I was too distracted by Alligator Loki to give fair attention to the other ones, except for, classic Loki.
I just love that he sits on a throne with a juice box. Like hello.
Yeah. Not just any juice box. High C Ecto Cooler.
Yeah.
The one that had Slimer on it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would watch, just give me all the Loki. I don't even care what they are, who they are. Just give me all of the Loki.
Yeah, I found several of the variants to be quite charming. Even the alligator one.
Ooh, speaking of the alligator, I'm wondering if it's a reference to the fact that the nexus of all realities is supposedly in the Florida Everglades. Anybody else think that? Am I the only one?
You are the only one.
Cool.
Officially, you're the weird one.
Yeah, I can honestly say I've never thought about that.
I've never heard any other YouTuber mention it. I'm like, have we not made the connection with like Florida Loki and the nexus of all realities?
I'm guessing Sarah likes classic Loki the best. We did spend a good bit of time talking about Richard E. Grant's portrayal of that character earlier, Sarah, before you got here. But I agree, like, he's fantastic. Like,
yeah, can I just say, like, Richard E. Grant is such a great actor, and if there's one thing that really makes me angry, it's when, like, sort of sci-fi or fantasy, or really, I guess, any genre, but when a property brings on like a really acclaimed actor and just doesn't actually utilize them in a great way. Thinking of Richard E. Grant in particular, I don't think he was serviced well in Star Wars. He just seemed to kind of be there. Like, I love the fact that he had one episode, technically two, because he popped up at the tail end, but mostly one episode, a limited amount of screen time, and holy shit, did, like, you know, he made the most out with his performance. The writers made the most out of him. Just a great performance and a great character, and I just it's just an expression. I'm not taking it off, but my hat's off to to the people behind Loki and to Richard E. Grant himself, because what a great job.
Agreed.
And I almost wonder if they did bring on such a great actor because he's going to come back.
I wouldn't complain, honestly.
I wouldn't either. Like I wouldn't complain about any of them coming back. Like, I don't need another Tom Hiddleston variant, but any of them that were played by a different actor, yeah, let him do that. I want Tom Hiddleston to be our Loki, L1130 or whatever they call him.
But I don't know. I would get a lot of joy out of him getting to, like, because we did see a different version of him in episode 5, President Loki, but to if he really got to sink his teeth into a very different Loki, and later on in the series, I think it would actually be quite interesting. But yeah, I know what you're saying, because when it's a different actor, it allows kind of a little bit of a separation to do some different stuff. But I also get a kick out of when actors get to play multiple versions of themselves. This is gonna be me. I'll be repeating myself. Sorry, Stephen.
Against it. I would love to see other variants of Loki that are played by Tom Hiddleston. But, like, if I'm going to have a spinoff, give me one with
a spinoff, yeah,
with classic Loki and Kid Loki together.
I just meant coming back.
Okay.
To the show, because Nessie and I have gone on and on about how much we love Fringe, and those actors got to play so many different versions of themselves, and it's a lot of fun to watch, and I'm sure to perform as well. So I say bring on different versions of Loki for Tom to play.
Keep the weird coming.
The weird is my favorite.
Me too.
What I'm here for.
Weird. People are talking about Throg in the. Now, I missed it, but somebody pointed it out to me, and then I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is so good." John, are you aware of Throg? Did you notice?
No, I did not.
Okay, so in the episode where they're stuck at the land before the end of time, right, where Elias is eating all this stuff, there is a floorboard pan where they go down through the earth, and you see like the metal trays, and then there's a Mjolnir, and then there's a little glass jar. In that glass jar is the frog version of Thor trying to escape. And Frog Thor is a real character from.
Oh, of course it is.
It was a guy who was like turned into a frog by a witch, and then picked up a shard of a shattered Mjolnir and became Frog Thor. So, like,
enough said.
Like, it's comic books. Comic books are weird.
Extremely weird.
Yeah.
I'm Googling Frog right now, and there's a listing for Pet Avengers, and I must say I need that immediately.
Oh, Phil, no. Please. You can't say you were annoyed by Lost and then say you liked Heroes. No, come on. Heroes is the very definition of a show that annoyed me.
I'm not going to dig into this too much, but Anna got a solid point here. The next show coming for the MCU Disney Plus lineup is the What If series. So this kind of gives us permission to believe those a little bit more because it is a multiverse.
Yeah, it does.
So like they get to do whatever they want, and like rest in peace, brother. Chadwick Boseman did his last work voicing T'Challa for What If. So I'm really looking forward to that as well.
I rewatched Civil War this weekend. I was like, Black Panther.
Oh, it's so good. You know, let's be sad for what we lost, but let's be happy for what we got. Because God, he was so great.
So, you like cats?
What, guy shows up in a big cat suit? You don't want to ask questions?
Bird costume, really? I didn't write it.
Anyway,
I love that movie so much.
It's great. Civil War is it's up there. Not my. It's actually probably
yeah. Winter Soldier is better.
Yeah, it is better. I agree. Of like the 4 movies that the Russo brothers did, I think Civil War is the worst of them. But that just says how great the rest of them are.
Oh God, we're gonna get into it. I think Endgame is the worst.
Okay, I mean, that's fine. You're allowed.
That was kind of my inclination too. I love the philosophical debate that happens in Civil War. So Endgame is a little bit more like fan servicey. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's the closing. Anyway, let's talk Loki, which came from Endgame, by the way. Let's let this blow our minds for a minute. That happened. The end of this first season is like 3 days after Loki gets slapped on the floor and called a puny god.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, but he doesn't know exactly how long it's been.
You're right. Well, he's existing out of time, but like it has not been that long for him to have had this huge change, which tells you that part of his character was always present.
That's what I find really compelling. Is that I'll be honest. At first, I wasn't sure how I felt about it because when I was initially like watching the first episode, I was like, they're kind of having him sort of catch up to where the sort of character development that we had seen for the Loki character through the other films by just having him watch like a highlight reel. But instead, what I've gotten from it is actually that this was always sort of in him. But it's just he just had these walls up, and a lot of what he talked about, that it's sort of fear that drives him, and so it does show that was in there, which really I'd be interested to go back and watch the first Thor and the first Avengers as well, knowing that this Loki is
there.
It's there. It's just waiting for the opportunity to come out. So yeah, I found it really compelling, and it just takes this character in a direction that I hadn't anticipated.
I agree. I think it's interesting. I actually did go back and watch Thor, Avengers, Dark World, and Ragnarok before the show started. You didn't really need to because, again, a lot of it's erased by this, but not erased, but sidestepped. And you really do see the difference in the arcs, but they come to the same place. I feel like in the main timeline that we got with him in the movies, he learns to reconcile with others. He reconciles with Thor and Odin eventually, and he comes to see a different side of himself. But in this scenario, instead of learning to respect and love others and trust others, he's learning to respect and love and trust himself. And it's externalized in his relationship with Sylvie, and in seeing other variations of himself, of what he could be, he really starts to self-reflect. And so it's funny how they took the arc in 2 different ways, but still got him to the same point where he's a character with excellent complexity that you're rooting for, who is capable of doing good things and being that sort of heroic character now.
Right. Which is you're touching on what Amy said. What do you think the central theme of the show is? Um, if I was going to boil down what I think the central theme of the show is, I think it would be like free will and self-determinism. It's not necessarily learning to love yourself, but taking ownership for the person that you are.
That's a really good way to put it, because I had made notes about like the theme is free will, identity, but I like the way you phrase that, taking ownership of the person that you are.
Thank you. I'm very smart.
I know. Big metaphor guy.
I am smart.
And I actually really like that, talking about the themes, that the show actually went in a different direction than what I feel both WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier did, which were very much dealing with issues of sort of trauma a lot. And this was doing something different. Which is not to say that there's not elements of, I think if you look at any of these stories, at some point there's trauma the characters are dealing with, but it was definitely about, what you guys have been saying about, sort of self-reflection and issues of identity and things. So I feel like this show did, went off in its own direction and was doing its own thing. And actually that's something that I was thinking about earlier that I wanted to mention, that putting aside the conversation of themes, how wild is it, honestly, that, we've had 3, Marvel shows on Disney Plus, and all 3 of them are so radically different from one another.
Radically different.
And the next one's going to be even more radically different. We're getting into animation now. Yeah. And alternate timeline, timey-wimey stuff. And then we get Wushu in September. And
I'm here for that too.
And Eternals in November. And then Hawkeye, which is going to be a little series. More. Yeah. But yeah, like just in terms of the totality of the Marvel projects for the year, not just the TV shows, but just 2021 is an excellent microcosm of the variety in the MCU or MCM now. In general, you get Black Widow, you get Loki, you get WandaVision, you get Eternals. It's that was one of the things that sort of hung me up on superhero movies for a long time. It was like, oh, they're all the same. It's just all fighting a generic big bad, and they all just have these OP superpowers. Like, what's interesting about that? But Marvel makes it interesting. All the characters are extremely relatable, and they build it up, and they build this world that is at once believable yet fantastic. So I don't know, they've impressed me so far, and that's why I've gotten so deep so fast with it.
Can I also say that you're listing off the shows, I have to curse Marvel for some of their casting choices, because in the case of Hawkeye, like, you could not really, I'm sorry, but you couldn't get me to watch a whole show for Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye. I'm just not going to do it. But they've also cast Haley Steinfeld in that series, and she is just a phenomenal actress. I don't know if anybody's watching the Apple Plus show Dickinson. She's phenomenal in that. So I'm going to watch that show, but it'd be for her. And yeah, I hate saying that because I actually I like Jeremy Renner. And one of my favorite parts of Arrival is his performance in that. But I've never really warmed to Hawkeye. But damn it, they're going to get me with the supporting cast. So
I think that's kind of the point, because I think they're really setting up Kate Bishop, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but I'm just going to say that there will be another character in that show who has recently joined the MCU, and who also has a lot of promise, and will probably be incredibly interesting to continue to watch. So I'm stoked for it. I agree. I'm not like the biggest Hawkeye fan or anything, but I'm definitely going to be watching that show, because I think it's going to be an interesting premise to see where it goes. And I think Kate Bishop is going to be one to watch going forward. So, and yeah, I agree. Haley Steinfeld is fantastic.
You're just like her because her name's Kate.
Well, yeah, her initials are KB, which is awesome. That's a thing. Yeah, no, I do like Haley Steinfeld, though. I really enjoyed her in the Pitch Perfect movies. Not only is she a great actress, she's a great singer as well. So I have a great appreciation for her talent. So I'm really excited to see her join the MCU.
It's interesting because it's so funny to think back to when she was just a kid in True Grit, which was, which is one of my favorite movies of that year, and just to see, how far she's come, and now I'm going to be watching an MCU show, mostly for her. It's, it's interesting. She's also a Spider-Gwen in Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes, she is. Great character. Like, you know what? I really want to do coverage of that movie. I love that movie.
Don't do that next week.
I won't, because I know you want to be there.
Yeah.
I have got to watch that movie. I think it's on Netflix.
Have you seen it before?
I have not. It's definitely high on my list. I just
do yourself a favor. I like, there are no movies that I call perfect. I don't believe that anything is a perfect movie. I pretty strongly believe that.
I'm gonna be talking about one of them on Saturday.
Into the Spider-Verse is a perfect freaking movie. Okay, there, I said it. Matthew Dominique's icon is from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is one of the things that when I noticed that, I was like, oh yes. Anyway, I digress.
It is on Netflix. I will get to this ASAP.
Well, if you like it, you can come talk about it.
Rock on.
Anyway, I digress. Let's I'm trying to keep it focused on Loki. We've got less than half an hour left in the stream, so I don't want to wander too far off course. There's still stuff that we could talk about. I think we've talked about most of the specific characters, but I'm going to circle back to this guy. I need more Mobius, and here's what I really want. If I can pitch this show, I want Mobius to grab Dr. Darcy Lewis and Jimmy Woo, Agent Jimmy Woo, and I want them to solve space-time crime together.
I would watch that so hard.
Right? Like, she's an astrophysicist. You've got a guy who understands the timeline stuff, and then you've got Jimmy Woo, who is an extremely talented investigator. So what a fantastic show that would be. And they can all be a throuple together.
Marvel just needs to give me all of these shows. Just
right.
We keep coming up with new ones every time we talk.
Right.
I want them all.
Well, we just need to be able to go to all the alternate timelines where different variations of every conceivable show exists.
Yeah, but like I said earlier, Sylvie is my favorite character from this series, and I stand by that. But God, I fell in love with Mobius. I really did. Like, it's hard for me to articulate how much I just love this big dumb guy here. And that's the thing. Like, he is playing a quintessentially Owen Wilson-esque character, but he is playing one that is against that sort of like surfer dude idiot type that he's so often cast as, because Mobius is really smart. And it's just
but again though, I have to say I'm really in support of the it's just my idea, nobody else is wanting this, but that he's an Owen Wilson variant. And because I just want to see him come up against like the most Owen Wilson that there could ever be.
Right.
And
Never Never podcast, Christine says Mobius gave Loki a run for his money and snark. Really did, which is probably why I loved him, because he's always got that like that quippiness, and from episode 1, Mobius is just shutting him down, beating him at his own game. You know, like there's that famous big metaphor guy, makes you sound really smart. I am really smart. I know. And just
I love
plays it off.
I do love when he comes back and you know, and he walks in the room to, you know, where Renslayer is, and he's like, he's back. and then when she's like, you you're still not giving me any match for me. He's like, oh, you think so? And she knocks it out of his annotates, and he's like, you were right.
It's true. Can we take a moment to appreciate the hug in the void? Like when they're about to part and Loki hugs him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just, I really got, I have to say, I got Steven and John vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really did
the
too.
The romance is strong.
So, but which one am I and which one are you?
Steven's Loki.
I think that's me. Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, I didn't want to take like Mobius away from you, Steven, but I have to say, if we're being honest, I really think that's
I think that's correct.
I think that's the dynamic. So.
It's canon. I'm a Loki variant and you're a Mobius variant.
Yeah.
There was something else I wanted to bring up.
And I'm the one who pulls your strings.
Dense.
I do want to give time to talk about Hunter B-15.
Okay, yes. Okay.
She was great. Especially because, the show starts off and she's like the really, gun-ho, she's going to be playing, opposite of Loki, being antagonistic towards him for the whole thing. I didn't expect her to be, one of the characters who was crucial in taking the place down, or at least in trying to take it down. And it was just really interesting once the crack started to form and she got a glimpse of what what her life had actually been, and she just follows that trail and just a great performance. Again, like the actors were just killing it in the show.
I love that she took Sylvie back to Roxcart in 2050 and was like, when you took over my mind, I saw something and I need to know what that was. And so it's a payoff for episode 2 and for all of Sylvie's powers for B-15 to realize that she had a life before. And I love that. Yeah, like you said, the performance of that was just phenomenal. You didn't see anything, but you felt it. And I just love that.
The way she says, I looked happy, it's...
Yeah. And I love that she says, so what's next? Or, what now? And I'm like, yes. And then you see her in Fremont, Ohio in 2018, which is the year of the snap. And you see her in I think it's a high school principal's office.
Yeah. It's Franklin D. Roosevelt High School, because his picture is literally on the wall. Eleanor Roosevelt's picture is on the wall. So it's the pen.
A cup of the pens? I think it's like a whole cup of them. The Franklin D. Roosevelt High School pen.
Ramble Ron, we did talk about Jonathan Majors' performance, and we kind of gushed.
We loved it.
Loved it. Like, I can't wait to see the other incarnations of that character, King the Conqueror, or Pharaoh Ramatut, or Immortus. Give it to me. He was fantastic.
Well, it's like, and it's really great because if you think like, okay, that's the sort of the dictator that they were working towards, finally stopping, and he's just like this, he's this guy weird. He's this weird dude who's just trying to do his best, so when we actually get a glimpse of the really evil versions of that character, that's definitely something to worry about. But I have no doubts, like every version of that character is going to be a treat to watch because, damn, he was good.
Yeah, he was like just And the thing is, you can tell he's having a blast, and he's chewing up the scenery. You've got Loki and Sylvie right there, but all eyes are on you, man.
And I think one of my favorite parts is like once they pass the threshold, and you can see like he's getting so much enjoyment out of just not knowing what's going to happen, and that moment when Loki and Sylvie kiss and they embrace, and it's like if you look behind them, he's like his hands full like this, and he's just watching, like he's so engrossed in it because like this guy has not had anything new on television to watch for eons, and this is like it's been rerun after rerun, so he's like so into this.
It's true. At first, I thought his performance was a little bit weird. I was like, what is this? But then it occurred to me, I was like, this guy's been alive for like thousands or maybe millions of years.
Millions of lifetimes.
Millions of lifetimes. And he has spoilers for everything. Like, you would go nuts if you lived in a castle at the end of time with no one else except Miss Minutes. Like, he's just so... And this pun is intended. He is loopy.
Sorry, I disagree. You lock me in a castle with Miss Minutes. That's just called marital bliss.
Oh, sure.
I love it. She's still calling me that, huh?
Yeah. Like he's seen some shit. Like, of course he's off his rocker and is just trying to like sow some chaos and have some fun because up until this point he's literally got the script. He's got spoilers for all of history, and now. Like you said, you watch him cross the threshold and you're like, I don't know what's going to happen now. And neither does anyone else. So just bring it on. And it was just so much fun when you realize that that's what's happening. And you're like, this is awesome.
Totally. So, okay. So for those of you that missed us gushing about Jonathan Majors earlier, there's a little taste. There's still more if you want to go back. We have gushed about everybody because we even went off on the tangent about how great the casting is in general. I did want to say the actor that played young Loki is a young man named. I just pulled it up. Come on. I'm going to feel really stupid when I can't find this. Jack Veal. Now, I couldn't find anything else that he's been in, so this might literally be his first ever appearance on a show, but I really enjoyed that character too and want more of that character. And Alligator Loki and Classic Loki. Okay, I said all this earlier. Like, just give me more.
And then we also had Boastful Loki.
Boastful Loki. Now, we didn't get as much, but like we did get him boasting, and boy, was that some boasting.
I just love the part where like Classic Loki just calls him on his bullshit. He's like, yeah, no. None of us believe that.
He's got Mjolnir, but Mjolnir is made out of like a piston rod and a length of railroad tie.
Yeah, that tracks.
And as long as we're like talking about this episode, I have to say, like, I think it's really ingenious what they did with the trailers, because like the trailers used like that moment of President Loki going, what did you expect, and then being having all the the guns and stuff pointed at him. It just like the trailer made you think that was our Loki, and that this show was going to be him being like as Loki as
there are a couple of shots for the trailers that didn't make it into the show as well.
Yeah, Loki on Asgard wasn't in there.
Yeah, there is one with him sitting on a throne that was not anywhere in the.
I mean, there was a lot of misdirection with what they did.
I'm fine with it.
No, I'm saying that is a good thing, honestly, because they didn't like give away where the character was going to go, and I really like that.
If you expect Loki not to mislead you, you clearly don't understand what you signed up for.
Yeah,
it's true. I love that they went meta with that, with the trailers and everything.
It might have just been something they cut for time. I honestly think that could have been something that he imagined when he who remains was offering them what, I can give you whatever you want. You could be, I'll research you into the timeline together, and you can be the ruler of Asgard.
I really don't like. I'm fine with if they just had stuff for the trailer that they put into mislead people, because honestly, it's not a new phenomenon. There's been trailers from years gone past that have had things that weren't ever intended to be in the film, and it's purely for the sake of marketing. So I say fine. Like I'm of the I'm the kind of person who wants, honestly, I want them to show as little from what we're actually going to see as possible. So that if that involves like misleading the audience and faking them out with some stuff, I'm actually fine with that, because I like to go into whether it's a movie or a show and have my expectations kind of blown away. And so I do like that I had a different idea about what this show might be than what it actually was.
Yeah, I don't know that any of us had thought about we had any idea what it would be.
Yeah.
Even after seeing the trailers, I had no clue.
Cloaked One apparently went into work when nobody else did. Well, enjoy your Tim Tams.
At least you got a full pack of cookies to yourself.
And go home. And drive safe when you do it.
My sympathies. There's nothing worse than when you get to work and you're like,
nobody else is there.
Nobody's here.
That's my life pretty much every day, because
that's your job, though.
Yeah, it's just me and the books, and I like it that way. But it's not always like that, or it didn't used to be. But.
Okay, I will say this: we got about 10 minutes left, y'all. So, chatters, if you have something that you want to make sure we touch on, now's your last chance. Oh,
okay. Well, I just have to, just give her props by name. The composer's name is Natalie Holt, and she just knocked it out of the park with the music for this show. I am not very often impressed by the music of the MCU, with the exception of Alan Silvestri's great Avengers theme. I think aside from that, a lot of the stuff isn't that memorable. This score is just so wild and weird and utilizes so many different instruments. They use the theremin in this score, which is like a classic science fiction, instrument used in all those old, B science fiction movies, of the 50s and stuff like that. So I'm like, I was so here for that, but it wasn't just leaning in one direction. There's, they're using the theremin, they're using, electronics, they're using, classic instruments, and it's just like so much of the music was just so ingeniously done, and that's the thing. I mean, I really do feel like this show just rose, several levels above what I had sort of expected. And I don't want to say that, because even from the first glimpses of the show from the trailers, I said, that looks different. And I think I'm going to like it. So more than anything, I think I'm just pleased that sort of gut reaction that I initially had proved to be correct. And they really did something quite ingenious with this show.
I agree. I think the music was great. Not only the score, but also the soundtrack. The songs that they used were awesome. But I think overall, the production design just nailed it. The costuming, the sets, the vibe of the whole thing was just so cool. I've heard that Eliath is very comic accurate, and the way the Citadel looked, if you pay attention really closely, there are apparently hourglasses at flanking the entrance to the Citadel.
Clock faces here and there, and yeah,
like the cloaked figures that you see in the Citadel have clocks for faces. There are 3 of them, but there's a broken one on the floor, which is a comics reference because there were originally 4 timekeepers. And there's a lunar cycle on the floor, which is another way of measuring time. It's so ingenious. All these little things. And the void itself is full of Easter eggs and references to real history and comic history. And the way they just wove it all together in the background for those people who catch the references. Oh, the detail.
Do y'all know the story of the USS Eldridge?
I do now, thanks to this.
Like, that is insane that they brought that over. If you don't know, there's not nearly enough time for me to break it down, but just look up USS Eldridge or the Philadelphia Experiment. It was an attempt by the U.S. Navy. This is an urban legend. I don't think it's actually happened, but it is an attempt by the U.S. Navy to make a cloaking device for a ship, and it apparently shifted people between realities. There was a movie made about it, like a made-for-TV movie made about it in the 80s or something. Anyway, fun idea, and I love that they brought it in.
And like the Polybius machine, the game.
Oh yeah, the Polybius video game that was like mind control by the CIA stuff. Anyway.
Yeah. And there were so many references in there too. There's like the head of the Living Tribunal. There's a yellow jacket helmet. There's
a giant yellow
the
jacket
Dark Actor is there. That's Ronan the Accuser ship. Like they nailed all of the little stuff with this show. And that's what impresses me about the MCU is that they pay attention to that.
I can't. Okay. The last thing I want to make sure that I say is about the castle itself. The way it looked like it was put together from broken pieces, and there is this. I can't remember what it's called, but
are you thinking of kintsugi?
That's it. The sort of the Japanese art of repairing a broken thing with gold, and the breakage makes it unique and gives it character. It's not seen as a flaw. It's seen as the thing that makes it beautiful, and it's literally like all pieced together from bits and pieces, probably from different timelines. And it creates a really interesting aesthetic as well, with those gold veins running through everything, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I noticed that too. It's supposed to make it stronger as well, because gold is, I mean, it's fairly malleable, but it's that's the belief. It's stronger and more beautiful, right?
Right.
So I thought that was really cool that they did that. They nailed it. I can't stop gushing about the show.
That's funny. USS Eldridge. Yeah, that would be might be more accurate given the story. It is a creepy, weird story. Look it up if you want to know more. Again, I think it's just an urban legend, but it's a fun urban legend.
Yeah, I was always thinking Eldritch too, and I was like, it's a lot more fitting.
Somebody's making a loud banging sound in another part of the house. I don't know what that is. Maybe somebody's getting pruned. I'm clearly at the TVA right now, so.
Totally.
I have to say, it's so funny that, like, I go on and on about how I like, things to be, unique, and I don't necessarily want everything tied in together. But then I started watching the 3rd season of Legion the other night, and I'm like, oh, this is one of the branches formed, in the Marvel multiverse. So it's, even for me, there's a little tiny joy that can be had from, thinking that now they can just start saying that everything's just another leg of the multiverse. And then I can also explain away all the continuity hiccups in the X-Men movie.
I think Gypsy Queen, and hi Gypsy Queen, I don't recognize you. Welcome to the stream. Raises a great point that I'm going to spin off into or riff on, that the Disney shows have the theme of self-reflection and acceptance, with Wanda dealing with her grief, Sam becoming the new Cap, and then Loki's struggles with who he is. And we did talk about this a little bit earlier in the stream, but so I absolutely agree with your assessment. But like, that is why I really am liking these Disney Plus shows, is because with episodes, you have with this episodic storytelling, you have so much more time to dig into the meat of a character. You don't have to set up and resolve the conflict completely all in an hour and 40 minutes or whatever. You've got twice or three times that long. And these are characters who are already well established in the MCU, so you don't have to do the origin for them either. You get to just dig into the meatiest bit of the stories right from the get-go. And that's the difference between the TV format and the cinema format. They're both great for their own reasons, but yeah, I really appreciate that they're doing it, and they're not just making longer stories that are superhero stories. As Gypsy Queen says, they have the common theme of self-reflection and acceptance, of wanting to see that character grow and become a better version of themselves. Arguably, Sam is the only one who's really done that successfully so far, but we'll see.
I agree, yeah, because Wanda could be an antagonist going forward. She may not have fully accepted everything, especially now that she's also lost her children and not just Vision. So we could be seeing, it was an interesting character study, but we could still be seeing some darker content from Wanda. Nice, Betsy.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think Loki is sort of a different animal, and just because of the fact that it's going to be an ongoing series. So you didn't necessarily need him to have dealt with all his issues by the end of the season. That's for seasons yet to come. So
yeah, and Falcon was an interesting one because he was already kind of technically Captain America, but it was the work he had to do inside himself to fully accept that he could do such a thing, that he could live up to or try to match up somehow to Steve Rogers, who he looked up to when he first met him, right? So that was probably a story he grew up with, and then he met the man, the myth, the legend, and now he's finding himself as Captain America. So he successfully did that.
Let's be honest, though. The best thing about, it was off topic, but the best thing about Falcon and Winter Soldier is this scene right here. Sorry.
I was going to say that was actually a very important note in Falcon's journey to become Captain America. It couldn't happen until he witnessed the Zemo dance.
Right.
Obviously.
Yeah.
That's how every great superhero is born.
Right.
Yeah.
Part of his true origin story, Zemo dance.
Yeah.
Well, y'all, that's 2 hours of Loki content. I've kind of reached the end of stuff to talk about myself. Kate, John, do you have any last-minute thoughts?
I interrupted you earlier, Kate, so go ahead.
I mean, I have so many thoughts about the show. I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting. I love how...
There always is.
I know. There's always more to say. But I love how this show impacts everything going forward. I think, compared to WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, those are but whispers on the wind to the impact of this show. It's going to change everything going forward. And it finally feels like an MCU show isn't just a character study, but it's actually going to have a lot of impact going forward. And I'm excited to see what comes next.
I'm here for it.
Thing is, because I think that the most valuable thing about these shows has been the fact that they have been character studies. And I don't know if I felt this so much with WandaVision, because I actually feel for her character that the events of that show will have, wide-ranging ramifications. I did feel slightly for Falcon and the Winter Soldier that while it was, from my perspective at least, a great character study, and and I'm very happy to have gotten to examine those characters in that light, but it also feels like if you didn't see the show, you're probably not going to be feeling like you skipped any narrative beats by jumping from Endgame to the next Captain America movie. It's, because Endgame ends with him taking the shield, and then the next Captain America movie is going to have him as Captain America. Whereas Loki is so seismic sort of shifting of, so much of the landscape and setting things up, that I just feel like, it's what you said, Kate. I just feel like the ramifications for this show are extremely important. And so it feels like it had both of those great things where the show itself is an excellent character study, but it's also narratively a very important piece of the MCU. So yeah, which is, why I think it's the best of the shows so far. And I mean, obviously, because as I said, it's pretty much my favorite thing out of the MCU overall. So
I agree. At this point, I am willing to say it's the best of the 3 Disney Plus shows so far. I think we'll cut out with this last question from Ramble Ron, who says, "What do you think Sylvie was thinking after she killed He Who Remains?" Because I can't remember which one of you said it. I think it was you, Kate. You said something to the effect of she expected that to make her feel better.
No.
That was you, John.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't remember, but she expected to make her feel better and to have some sort of relief or release from that, and it didn't.
Yeah, I don't think she got that at all. And the way she just kind of sits down on the floor and just kind of takes it in. I think, if it's hard to tell whether she feels like what she did was a mistake or not. And if she recognizes that she's just unleashed something really bad on the universe, it remains to be seen if she realizes that. But I do think that she's feeling empty in that moment and probably not as fulfilled as she expected to be.
Yeah, her whole life has been about the chase, and now she's accomplished her goal. So where does she go from here? She probably feels untethered, and she probably also does not feel the weight of what she just did, at least not yet. So I think her feeling in that moment is just, okay, what now?
Right, totally.
I've been in the revenge business for so long. Now that it's over, I don't know what to do with the rest of my life.
You got it, John. That's what her next step is, to become the Dread Pirate Roberts. That's it.
It's canon now. It's canon.
We solved it. We solved it. Thanks, John.
Oh, God.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. I think we'll call it there, though. I have been your host, John Barry at number 420, also known as Steven. That's been John, also known as John, and Kate. Kate, thank you so much for joining us this week. I know you'll be back again soon. We really do enjoy having you. Come back next week for me and Nessie talking about something, I don't know. Join John next week on the John Webster Film Channel for the discussion of Amadeus with an all-star lineup. Who are your guests?
All right, it's going to be Nessie. It's going to be AK. It's going to be Shakes of Thrones. It's going to be Laura. Join us. It's going to be freaking fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be. That's a great lineup you've got there. I'll be there in the chat, again, probably trolling you somewhat, but having a good time along with everyone else.
Always trolling.
Kate, as soon as you start making content, we will plug it here. And until then, we're just going to keep sucking you back in to do stuff with us.
I'm happy with that. This is fine by me.
Yeah,
I know that I want to be a booktuber.
You're not the only one who has said that to me. Like,
This is fun. Look at the fun we're having.
It is. Like, you guys worry about it. You make the thumbnails and you do the scheduling and the promo.
It gets to be a pain.
You don't, in all honesty, Kate, you don't want to take that on yourself.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I had the choice at this point just to guest on channels, that would be the way to go.
And I don't have to worry about regular content. I can just, like, come on when I know I'm coming on.
Oh, Potter. Never change. Never change.
Just because I'm a redhead now doesn't mean.
He said something to that effect earlier in the chat. Like, you dyed your hair red, it's only going to compound the problem.
Which, by the way, Stephen, I'm noting that you still have your hair.
I was literally had my shoes on and my wallet in my pocket, ready to walk out the door yesterday to go get my hair fully cut. And I was just like, I can't do it. Nope. I got cold feet and chickened out.
I'm hashtag team haircut.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll see.
I'm hashtag team beard.
We'll see. See, here's the thing. I'm keeping it so that at Con of Thrones, I can have all the ladies fighting over the right to braid my hair.
I am good at braiding hair. I will Dutch braid the crap out of that.
Okay, so like I'm just saying, gotta have hair in order to do that. But yeah, thanks everyone for being here. Chatters, it was a blast. You guys are great as always. Saw a couple new people in the chat this week, which is always really nice. Come back. We do nerdy stuff all the time. We have fun. Obviously, like, we don't take it too seriously. We just nerds riffing on nerd stuff. Hit the like, subscribe. Yeah, it'd be cool of you. But yeah, until next week, I love you guys, and we'll see you then. But until then, you know what it is. Peace, and be excrement to each other.